Why has Reform decided to produce this report today?
Well, I think what we wanted to do was look at one of the really big unsolved challenges in welfare reform, which is for people on disability benefits. You know, if we look at the success of the current government and previous governments in other areas, reducing people on unemployment benefits, getting them back to work, getting local parents back to work, we've seen some really substantial reductions. That just hasn't happened for people on disability benefits. The caseload was about 2.5 million people about a decade ago. Now it's 2.4 million people. It's barely changed at all. And this is a big problem, not just in terms of cost to the taxpayer, but it's also a big problem with people who are parked on these benefits who just aren't accessing the benefits of the social and health benefits of work. So it's a huge challenge, and I think this was our opening attempt to see how we could look at solving it.
So what are the key headlines from the report?
Well, I think there's three key things. The first thing is the number of young people claiming disability benefits is very high, and it's risen in the UK by about a fifth in the last 5 years. And as a proportion of under 35s, that's about twice the OECD average, so that's very significant. And it's very important that young people aren't detached from the labour market at a young age, because as we know, the longer you're out of the labour market, the more difficult it is to return. The independent reviewer, Dr. Litchfield, talked about a lost generation of young people, so I think that's very significant. The second point is around mental health. The proportion of the caseload that's associated with mental health problems has increased quite dramatically in recent years. It's now around a half of the caseload, and I think that's something that's not very well understood. And the third point, I think, is around geographic concentration. We're seeing very intense concentrations of people claiming disability benefits in some parts of the country, mostly in the north of England. Of the highest claims by local authority as a proportion of the working age population, 9 out of 10 of them are in the north of England, many in former industrial areas with higher unemployment. So I think that's very significant as well.
So what's the one message you'd like government to take away?
Well, I think the message to the government is really that small tweaks to the system just haven't worked and are unlikely to work in the future. The previous government introduced employment support allowance as a big reform back in 2008, but fundamentally there wasn't actually much change underlying that. The structure of the benefit, the conditionality that goes along with it was very similar, as was the employment support, and outcomes didn't improve very much as a result. So I think we really do need to look at the whole structure of the system and about some really pretty radical reforms if we're going to see fundamental change. Because of that, Reform will be looking at this in two subsequent papers. One looking at the structure of the benefit, how employment support allowance and out of work incapacity benefits are structured, and the second looking at the employment support angle, what's the most effective way of getting these claimants back into work.